Shoot him in the dick. That's the drift.
Hey guys, Dantics here. Look, I have something pretty controversial to say about Borderlands 3, so let me just ready myself emotionally for the backlash I'm about to get. You're strong, Dan. You can. You don't need no man. Okay, let's do this. Let me start with this. Borderlands 3 is so far my game of the year. I refuse to write a review on the title because it'd be mostly me gushing about everything they did right for 30 minutes and glazing over the negative for about 30 seconds. So if you clicked on this and haven't bought the game, my overall review is this. The game is a massive improvement on the previous titles. It's fun, addictive, and like a hug from Thor. It's more than worthy of a look, let alone a purchase. However, there is one flaw with the game, and it's mostly nitpicking an otherwise great title, but this one thing left me feeling a little bit, well, I wouldn't say empty, but it definitely left me feeling slightly robbed of achievement, and I want to discuss it with you to see if you feel the same. Before we start, I'm giving away one of these, so if you want to grab a Nintendo Switch, all you need to do is follow the link below, so get in quick. The great thing about Borderlands 3 is you can venture off the beaten path and be just as or even more entertained than if you stayed on the main mission path. The side missions never feel like a simple fetch this or kill that. They always have something interesting or hilarious about them, and even the odd amount of male crotch assaulting jokes have their place.
Shoot him in the dick. That's the drift.
The writing most of the time is a try and perform and function. Most of the time. Some of the time, in my humble opinion, it simply falls apart. In what ways? Well, these. The main missions rob you of your achievements, firstly by putting the side characters in the spotlight, some of which aren't, sorry to say, well written or worthy of the time. These characters aren't as strongly written as the others, and in a game where the writing is so strong, the poor parts stand out as badly as Tyrene's daddy issues. Secondly, by removing your character completely from the story parts, nullifying your achievement and impact. The best story-driven games have one thing in particular that they all share. If you want to know more about this, check out my video, Number One Thing RPGs Need to Nail. Ultimately, what role-playing games truly need to nail is the feeling of being a complete and utter badass. So hear me out. You will notice that every successful BioWare title has the main protagonist who you project yourself onto as someone who is elevated above the rest and whom the universe respects in one way or another. This leads the narrative down a path that makes the player feel invaluable and capable of changing the world. Sadly, this doesn't apply to many points in the story. Well, if you haven't completed the game, now is the time to bookmark this video and come back when you have, as there will be story spoilers. You've been warned. I want to start with your character taking a backseat to side characters. The character Ava is thrust upon the audience in a violent way. The writers try to forcibly show her growth and ultimately position her as a leader of sorts, even though she's done nothing to earn the spotlight she gets. When you meet Ava, she's a belligerent child, and I was sad to see that nothing really changes.
Ava, I'm trying to keep you safe.
By just ditching me on the ship? You said I could be a vault hunter like you! You promised!
You will! When you're ready.
Because of her refusal to listen to her mentor, that said mentor is killed protecting her. There's no justification for her attitude, yet Ava blames Lilith all the way to the end. Instead of accepting that not listening to Maya caused her death, which would show emotional growth, she doubles down.
Open the vaults? That's all you have to say. Maya's dead because you wanted to open the vaults. We should be hunting down the Calypsos and making them pay for what they did.
It's not that easy.
Maya always told me a vault hunter runs toward the fire.
This would have been the perfect time for the writers to mature the character, humble her, so the audience can justify her annoying attitude. You can write an endearing, immature character, as shown by other characters in Borderlands 3. Yet, she yells at Lilith to run towards the fire, and Lilith, instead of asking why the heck a kid is trying to dictate how the raiders operate, agrees with her and questions herself further. The game then, later on, validates her childishness by having Lilith, the hero of Borderlands 1 and the so-called Slayer of the Destroyer, repeat the run towards the fire line, even though doing so at the time was stupid and ill-advised and got her friend killed. You, the Vault Hunter, who has brought the raiders back from total destruction and defeated defeated every challenge along the way, now has to take a backseat to this child, who is given a leadership role assaulting the Calypso's fortress for literally no reason. Does Lilith know if she can even fire a gun yet? Who is she? We haven't seen her fight once yet. Ava, get your ass in the middle of a firefight because Maya is training you. The whole situation makes very little sense to me. That's putting aside that there are whole hosts of other characters already established in the game that could have fit her role better, like Tiny Tina, and whom many fans would have preferred seeing become a siren. If Ava was completely removed from the game, it would have done nothing but improve the story. Go ahead, think about it. Maya could have filled all the parts of her role without Ava, and the story would have been better for it. But it feels like Gearbox have weird plans for the kid, who just seems like a less funny Tiny Tina with a bad attitude.
She's no one. I'm your problem.
I'm gonna be a siren, and then I'm gonna mop the floor with assholes like you!
You're gonna... Is that how you think this works?
The only characters whose writing is worse is the one-dimensional Amara, who I struggled to play without cringing, but
Great, another trumped. My other fist was getting jealous.
that's a story for another day, and I'm sure there's some people who like her constant mindless posturing. So I've explained why Ava's inclusion was completely unnecessary, but that's only a symptom of a slightly bigger problem. I mentioned that your character does all the work to save the universe, but takes a backseat to side characters. Well, the game acts like you simply don't exist in many cases. In almost all the major cutscenes, you're not present at all. When you first exit the vault, the Calypsos take out Maya and Ava without you there. When Typhon de Leon is killed, when you fight Troy, the side characters don't even double tap the main villains who killed thousands and just watch Tyrene get up and crush them, with you nowhere to be seen even though you just took Troy out. It has many of us yelling, "Where was I during all of this?" I'm used to my presence being ignored in real life. I don't need it in a game too. Then there's a case of everything you've done to prevent the end of the world being rendered completely pointless because ultimately Tyrene gets what she wants during cutscenes you're not present in, and you have to kill her to save everyone. But psych, you didn't! The end of the world is happening, and Lilith, who the story has focused on accepting her role as a leader more than your achievements the whole way through, now gets her powers back and saves the universe. So that means if you all sat back and did nothing, the same thing would have happened. The credits roll with everyone cheering for Lilith's awesome sacrifice. Wait, so we helped too. I mean, I'd say we pulled the majority of the weight. I feel as though this severely robs the audience of what should be their moment. Last thing we need is a slideshow of how great Lilith is over music "She's on Fire" after my friends and I essentially saved the universe, even though it was kind of cool. Overall, I enjoyed the story, but there were some choices like this that had me kind of scratching my head. The player is the force of nature, but is helpless and removed from each cutscene like they're inconsequential, even though your actual presence there would have changed the course of the scene. It is possible to include the player character in those scenes and have the same outcome with clever writing. The side characters are thrust upon us in the story and take a role above the player character themselves, having you feel like a minion. And finally, some of the story choices, like having Lilith being the focal point after your massive achievement, rob the audience further. When you're running towards the twins and you hear that Troy is draining his sister, I thought, oh my god, this is goddamn amazing writing. You see him slowly break out of being under his sister's shadow before this point. You see him becoming the ultimate endgame bad guy, the parasite, and
is awesome. We haven't really had a chance to get to know each other, huh? And Ty's been doing most of the talking. She does that, right? She's the center of the galaxy, and the rest of us just sort of orbit around her.
It would be a great twist and make for a wonderful antagonist, as the audience has little sympathy for Tyrene, but starts to build some for Troy, except it doesn't happen. Tyrene survives and predictably is the final boss. But Dan, how would you change it? Well, this is how I would have preferred the story to go. The whole Ava arc is gone and replaced with literally anything else or anyone else. Maya is solo when you're inside the vault and is killed by Troy. Later you fight Tyrene while the moon is being charged by Troy, but she is defeated. Troy reveals his hand, betrays his sister, and absorbs her, becoming incredibly powerful. To stop Troy from opening the vault, Lilith sacrifices herself. Everyone mourns, This Girl's on Fire plays, everyone's upset, the fake ending plays, and psych again, it's not over. Then you go on an adventure to Neko to stop Troy from opening the great Great Vault and taking the Destroyer's powers with his sister's ability to absorb life force. You fail and fight Troy, the Destroyer, which doesn't look like an abomination bear mech with tentacles and dangly bits, but more like a giant Grave Ward-like boss. You win and become the hero of the universe. The ending is focused on the Vault Hunters and the universe reaction to you. Now, that is an ending I can get behind. It still has Lilith's sacrifice, it has Maya's sacrifice, but the player's impact is taken more seriously. You're treated like you were the main character. It doesn't need a cutscene without you in them. It doesn't need new side characters thrust into the limelight. It has a great antagonist which you watch rise up from being under the shadow of another and being treated like a side character, and has some justification for being a bad dude wanting to shine brightly. Ultimately, it would make you even more badass than the combat and gameplay already makes you feel. Being told you're a badass isn't undercut by the actions of the story. I mentioned before that a good role-playing game story has the player feeling powerful. Without that feeling, a game that has you overcoming adversity and universe-ending threats doesn't feel like an interactive adventure, rather playing inconsequential segments than watching a movie. So I know I may have sounded a bit salty, but I really want to break down and explain my thoughts. It's good having these discussions with media that we really enjoy, because the problem with success is that it, well, assumes there can be no growth. This was the most entertaining Borderlands story yet, but I would love if, for Borderlands 4 or even Borderlands 3 DLC, that we're engaged more than we already were. There is no reason that the storytelling in Borderlands can't become as strong as the gameplay. Not to say that I have all the answers, but I wouldn't mind opening it up to discussion. What do you think? Do you think Ava as a character was great? Do you like being disconnected in the cutscenes? How do you feel about the end? So thank you for watching, guys. If you haven't already, be sure to like, comment, and obey. I'll be back very soon with more Borderlands 3 and other RPG content.